Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to welcome you once again, dear viewers, to Discover Islam, Sharjah TV's English language Islamic chat show. And it's an all-Irish night tonight. Yusuf Sai and Ibrahim McGrath. Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Watch your English, lads, or we'll need subtitles. I wanted to talk a little bit about, since you've both recently been to Ireland, about the state of religion in Ireland, or the growth of secularism in Ireland, because I haven't been to Ireland now since the mid-80s, the mid-80s, and my memories of Ireland is always that it was the most Catholic country in Europe, that you'd see people pouring out of church on Sunday like you see people pouring out of the mosques in Jummah here. This trend hasn't continued, has it, Yusuf?
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. I think if you went back to visit Ireland now, it would be hardly recognisable to you. Certainly in the last few years, since the boost in the economy and the economic spurge, if you like, this has led to more money in the pockets and people, if you like, distancing themselves from the Catholic faith.
Do you mean your generation, the younger generation?
Well, in generally speaking, I find it obviously when I was, Ibrahim, you can maybe vouch for this, that when I was there only recently, I found that certainly within the younger generations, there was a lack of interest in religion in general, and also among the parents of those children, the older generation seem to have retained that those religious kind of practices and rituals of going to the church on Sunday and things like that, and certainly within the countries outside the main cities, they still do it more as a habit rather than anything else. But certainly if you go back now to Ireland, you'd be, I think, shocked at how things have changed so dramatically over the last few years.
Would you agree with that, Ibrahim?
Yeah, certainly. I think, there's a lot of different reasons for it, of course, but there has been a steady decline, I think, as you were saying, in the number of people that are going to chapel and going to church, and the media hasn't helped in that either. I know, of course, the recent scandals with the priests has been fodder for the TV and newspapers for a long time, and obviously with justification too, because the church did try and cover up for a long time the abuses of the priests. So they're guilty to a certain extent,
I think we might point out here, for those who don't know the Catholic Church very well, those of our viewers, that they impose a rule of celibacy, or they don't allow their priests to marry.
That's true.
Yeah. So this obviously creates some problem.
Yes, certainly. I mean, of course, if we're not allowed to practice our sexual feelings as is natural, between a man and a woman, this emotions, all sorts of things will be built up in the person, and come out in some sort of deviation, as it has with the priests.
You mentioned the media. It's an amazing thing that I saw a small booklet that was written in America in the 70s by a Christian organisation about the media in America, that they'd done a survey. And they said that journalists and TV people were more secular or less religious than the audience that they spoke to, and that over the years their views have become imposed on the populace at large. For example, they said, most journalists they have affairs, that they don't believe in God, and this kind of thing, and their secularism was more advanced than the people. Whether this was because of the nature of their job, or that such people were picked for that purpose, it's hard to say. But it's certainly true, isn't it, that the people in general have become more secular.
Yeah, I mean, the media there, as you were saying, those people tend to be more vocal. They'll not remain quiet, these people. So even though the silent majority of the people would be more sort of towards the church, these people that are in the positions in the media are
Did you find priests or the Catholic Church responding to this?
What I found, certainly when all these scandals came to the surface, that a lot of people, in some sense, weren't surprised. As the brother quite mentioned, when you're not allowed to do what is permissible, then it leads to perversion in a sense.
So it mentions it in Quran. Sorry to interrupt you, but it mentions it in Quran, doesn't it, that they imposed celibacy on themselves, and Allah didn't ask it of them.
Exactly, and they made what was permissible unlawful, and vice versa. So certainly the wisdom behind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowing marriage is because He knows that the human being and the nature of the human being. So apart from the impracticality of it all, we find that that it doesn't agree to the nature of the human being. And certainly when the scandals did come out, I found that they weren't quick to come to the surface to explain why it was happening. They didn't excuse anything, and they just seem to have got a battering in the media from that.
And they didn't answer back.
And it doesn't seem to be any responses for that. Rather than we hold our hands up and we accept our faults. And it seems that they have surrendered themselves to this secular ideology.
Even there was I think it was about towards the end of the series of different scandals that the Cardinal Ratzinger posted a letter to all the bishops explaining to them that they would need to keep secret all the any of the investigations which were happening within their area, with a view to excommunication if they divulged that.
Gosh.
Yeah. So this cardinal is now obviously the Pope. So is there any more important of person in the Catholic Church that can?
Years ago, when I lived in Ireland, our local priest told me a very interesting story. He went on holiday to see an old mate of his that had been in Maynooth together. Maynooth is called it. Yeah, Maynooth. It's the big college there, the big priest college. He'd been to Peru in South America. So he's telling me about his old buddy from Maynooth. He said he has an Inca wife and 3 children. So I thought that was forbidden. He said, no, you see, the lads who really want to get married, they send them to these places for 2 reasons. One, that it's better, they need priests there, and it's better than that they go far away from the public eye. And secondly, that the native South Americans don't trust celibates. They think they're demons. They see a man who doesn't have a wife and family, they think he's some kind of demonic force. Well, who are we to argue with them? So this has gone on quietly.
Yeah, it seems to have been. And not only that, I think that these scandals were, if you like, so to speak, where the straw broke the camel's back. I think people generally, they have this. They don't really have an interest in religion. Like if you compare, for example, the younger generation amongst the Muslims, if we look at the schools and compare the schools and the education in which children are taught, and I certainly, from my experience, I found that when you talk about religion, the children are all very clued in. They respect what you say, and they take it very, very serious. And when they hear the Quran, there's no messing. Suddenly that giddiness, escapes them, and they become, what you expect them to be, and that's serious Muslims. And when you hear the Quran, then you listen to it. Certainly, when I was in school, and I remember being brought up in a Catholic church and a Catholic school, Christian Brothers school.
You went to a Christian Brothers school.
So even then, it was at that time. I even remember that we weren't really taught any religious education. It was more of social issues what we would talk about, and there was nothing about teaching us the religion or rules and things like that.
Lives of the prophets.
So it even that was a long time ago now. It's maybe over 10, 12, 13 years ago. But even at that point there, I realised to myself, I was like, they're not even teaching them about their religion.